News this morning, our I-team investigates how so-called magic mushrooms could treat depression and more, and how the new push to legalize them here in Florida is unfolding.
Today marks 1 year since George Floyd was killed by Minneapolis police officer. The tragedy reigniting the fight for police reform.
I am feeling very optimistic on the local level because we are moving in such rapid pace.
The changes we're seeing right here in South Florida, and the work's still ahead.
A new rule could change the way your kids learn history. I'll show you why some critics say that it could water down historical events.
You're watching CBS 12 News This Morning, the one to turn to.
Hey there, happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm Matt Lincoln.
I'm Ashley Glass. Right now, firefighters are monitoring hotspots from 2 different wildfires in our area. One of them in Palm Beach Gardens, nearly 500 acres on the left-hand side of your screen. This morning, we're learning it's 75% contained, and it started after some heavy machinery caught fire.
And on the right side, Indian River County, the tree frog fire near Fellsmere is about 1,600 acres. At last check, the fire is at 80% containment. This one sparked from an unattended campfire.
Let's bring in Lorna Lesky now, our meteorologist. Are the conditions today helping firefighters do their jobs?
It's a little breezy out there, so unfortunately we're still going to have some of that wind, not making the effort that great. This morning, excuse me, the winds are a little calm, but they will likely pick up in the afternoon, which is a trend we do likely see a lot. A look at radar where we are dry. We need some rain. We are well behind on that rainfall for this time of year. 12 miles per hour is the current wind speed in West Palm Beach, so that's obviously not going to help any fire efforts out there today. The winds are much calmer across the Treasure Coast. But again, they could pick up later today. Now, it's really dry outside. We are behind on rainfall for the year. This is our water vapor loop from the past few hours, and you'll see all this beige coloring in place. Yeah, that's the dry air that's overhead. So that could allow more fires to start today. Completely clear sky outside right now at PGA National, or at the airport. We're looking out west from PGA National. It looks a little hazy out there. There might still be some of that lingering smoke. 66 degrees in Vero Beach right now, 61 in Okeechobee. It's nice and cool. 76, though, in Delray and Boca. We got another calm day out there. We'll take a closer look at it. Still ahead. Matt, Ashley.
All right, Laura, let's take a look right now on time traffic. When we look here, Fellsmere I-95 and County Road 512, where FHP warning you can still see smoke because of that brush fire in your morning drive. Also telling drivers to use caution in the area of Beeline Highway and North Lake Boulevard, where there is another brush fire burning in the Palm Beach Gardens area. Give yourself some extra time this morning.
Good advice. 6:32, and today marks 1 year since George Floyd died by the hands of a former Minneapolis police officer. A day that sparked protests nationwide after former officer Derek Chauvin kneeled on his neck for more than 9 minutes, and during his arrest that happened. Since that day, there's been a greater push for police reform and calls for justice. It's something we've seen too leading up to the 1 year mark. These are the scenes as people gather to remember George Floyd, from outside the Minneapolis courthouse to his hometown in Houston, and from coast to coast, all the way from Oregon to New York.
And you're looking live now at the White House this morning. In just hours, President Biden will meet with the family of George Floyd. And the family will also meet with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other lawmakers. And 1 year later, on the federal, state, and local levels, lawmakers and area leaders have been focusing on police reform and building trust between communities and law enforcement.
Huge topic right now. Our Kara Duffy's at the live desk following the biggest stories of the day. Kara, are we seeing any local changes since then?
Well, Matt, Ashley, George Floyd's death certainly sparked national outrage and an outcry for change. Here in West Palm Beach, for example, the mayor formed a task force last summer in the wake of all those protests that echoed around the world. The goal, to combat racial discrimination. Local activist Bryce Graham is part of the city's task force. This is him, his girlfriend, and his mother, all watching the Derek Chauvin verdict come down last month. As you can see right there, a tear rolling down his face, emotions very high in that moment. The task force, which is made up of law enforcement and Black and Hispanic leaders throughout our community, they meet several times a month to address equality in areas like criminal justice, health, even real estate and housing. Graham says while they are making progress every day, their work is far from over.
Open up your eyes, getting involved, getting engaged, being aware, socially aware of what is going on with people of color, economically, socially, even when it comes down to health care.
There's also been some movement at the state level. Just a few weeks ago, the House and Senate unanimously passed a police reform bill. It's aimed at covering de-escalation training, limiting the use of chokeholds, and requires officers to disclose whether they've ever been investigated for using excessive force. Officers would also have the duty to intervene if they saw another officer using excessive force on someone. Lawmakers are calling that legislation a good start. The bill now sits on the governor's desk waiting to be signed. Matt?
And Karen, Florida among more than 24 states that have passed police reform bills in the wake of Floyd's death. I wanted to show you here this map at the National Conference of State Legislatures. The states that have passed police reform bills are in the teal. This map right here is from those states that passed from last May to December, and this is ones that's passed bills between last January and May. You see Florida still in the pink, not in the teal, because the governor has not signed that legislation that Kara just talked about. Most states would have been out of session since May.
And on the national front, today marks the deadline for the George Floyd Policing Act, but Congress is unlikely to reach a deal. This bill passed the Democratic-led House back in March, as you know. Here's what it includes, too: banning police techniques like chokeholds at the federal level, improving police training and investing in community programs, and promoting equitable new policies. To pass in the Senate, 10 Republicans would need to vote yes.
And the police officer who knelt on the neck of George Floyd is expected to be sentenced next month. A jury found Derek Chauvin guilty on all 3 counts: second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. He faces decades in prison.
The 3 former officers who worked with Chauvin that day will go on trial next year. They face charges of aiding and abetting. Those officers were fired the day after Floyd's murder, along with Chauvin.
Well, the Floyd trial, the COVID pandemic, our politics, these are all headlines today that will one day turn into chapter titles in history books. So how will the children of our future learn about the big stories of today?
How's this going to look here? The Board of Education is considering a new rule that would essentially police the way teachers explain these historic events to our children. Let's bring in Madeline Montgomery live in Palm Beach Gardens. Maddie, all parents have their ears perked to this. How now, our kids are living through it, but how will they learn about it later on?
The rule is to get teachers to stick to the script, or rather stick to the words in a history book instead of inserting their own opinions on things. And this is all from a rule that Commissioner Richard Corcoran is behind, and he says it's to keep teachers from inserting ideologies into the classroom. And this proposed rule follows a push by Governor Ron DeSantis to keep what's called critical race theory out of the classroom. That's a theory that there's a racist subtext in American institutions. Governor DeSantis sees this theory itself as racist. Commissioner Corcoran thinks his rule could prevent it in classrooms, but history teacher David Trail doesn't see the rule as necessary at all.
We don't know who's in our class and who's going to be offended by what, so you try to keep it fairly tame. But in general, I don't think it's going to change much of anything of the people that I know, but who knows?
Trail has taught history for over 20 years. He says students wouldn't be passing state testing or AP tests if educators were inaccurately teaching history. And we did reach out to the commissioner to ask him, why is this rule so important and how exactly would it be policed? But he declined to comment. And teachers and the teacher union have already gone ahead and said that they're against this rule because they think it could water down historical facts. And this rule is going to be considered and then voted on June 10th. For now, live in Palm Beach Gardens, Madeline Montgomery, CBS 12 News.
At 6:38, we have some brand new video coming into our newsroom. I'm seeing it for the first time with you here. Police in Port St. Lucie using a drone to help find a woman lost in the woods. The woman got lost after dark while taking photos in a construction zone over the weekend. So police use these infrared cameras, the images you're seeing, to track the woman. She was walking down a dark wooded road when you see the police SUV drive up beside her. During her rescue, police learned 57-year-old woman had an outstanding warrant and was then arrested for drug possession.
And we are just getting this into our newsroom right now. Take a look here. Detectives have released this sketch. It's of one of the suspects wanted in connection with a home invasion at a residence just outside of Palm Beach Gardens last week. It happened last Wednesday near the area of North Lake and Military Trail. Deputies say 2 armed men broke into the home, forced the victim into a car, and made them drive to the bank where they withdrew money.
You can see that sketch again right now on our website, too. It's 6:39. A financial hit for millions of Floridians who don't have a job. The state will no longer distribute unemployment benefits starting June 26th. That means you won't be seeing those $300 weekly checks anymore. The Department of Economic Opportunity says there are more jobs open right now, so that's why the change. And until June 26th, if you're getting unemployment benefits, you have to prove you're actively searching for work through a series of questions.
Governor DeSantis cracking down on social media companies that ban users. A new law fines platforms $250,000 a day for any statewide political candidate who is removed from the platform. It also gives users the right to sue over content issues. The law goes into effect July 1st, but it's likely to face legal challenges along the way.
It's 6:40 and only on CBS 12 News this morning. Psychedelic drug to treat depression and PTSD.
I've seen hundreds of folks over the years, thousands of folks that I think would have benefited from this.
Only here, you'll meet the group on a magic mushroom mission to legalize them here in Florida and why this idea isn't as far out as you might think.
Not a bad start. 60s and 70s out there. We'll take a closer look at the rest of your day next.